We're going to talk about the first selection tool, which is the Marquee Select. Whether it's rectangle or elliptical, you can just press and hold to have these two options. Anything that we talk about the rectangle applies to elliptical as well. To select, just left click and drag. You will have a rectangle. If you press Shift, you have a perfect square. If you add Alt to it, you just draw your selection from the center. Let's do it here. Maybe it's much better. You can see from the center. Once you select, if you want to deselect, just press Command D or Control D. A cool tip that you need to know, if you started to draw the rectangle and you want to move it, just continue pressing the left mouse button. While pressing it, press the space and you can move your rectangle anywhere you want, and then just release the space and you can continue drawing the rectangle. If you want to transform the selection, just right click in the middle of it and choose Transform Selection, and you can transform it the way you want. If you want to warp the selection, just press the Command button in Mac, Control in PC, and then you can warp it the way you like. Once you're done, press this button, the check mark, and you have your selection. Let's deselect. Let's start selecting this box. I'll use my rectangle Marquee Select. I'm going to start dragging, pressing space to move it. Go here, and I like where it is right now. I'll use my layer, add layer mask, and I selected. I added a black layer underneath it to show it. If you notice, it's a very hard edge. To fix that, you have multiple ways. I'll press Command Z to undo. I have my selection here. You can either right click and use feather and choose the feather you want. I'll cancel. Or before you select your subject, you can add the feather here if you want. Let's assume that we already added the layer mask and we want to feather that. I'll just show you one thing. I'll isolate the layer mask by pressing Alt and left click on the layer mask, and you can see it here. It's very hard edge. One way is to add filter, blur, any of these blur. I'll use this one on the mask itself. So I'll press OK, and here you have it. It just blur. I'll just Command Z. Let's assume that I want to only blur one edge rather than the whole thing. So the same thing, I'm selecting the layer mask. I'll use the blur tool and just paint over the edge that I want to blur. I'll press Command Z. I'll go back. I'll select my layer. The last way to fix your mask is by something called Select and Refine. Make sure that you're selecting the layer mask, go to Properties, and here, Select and Mask. And you have so many options right here. We're going to talk about them in details later, but the most important one is this area. There is Smooth, Feather, Contrast, and Shift Edge. Let's feather it out. You can see here it's so feathered out. It looks bad, but you get the point.